What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Barbados Walker. I'm your host, Andrew, and in this video, we're going to be talking about working in Barbados. This is especially for foreigners. Now, if you're thinking of moving to Barbados, one of the things you're thinking about is, can I work here? And even if I can work here, what are the things that I should look forward to? What are the job opportunities that I should be looking out for? Because if you just come here and you get just any kind of job, or you don't even know the process of getting a job, it could become difficult for you in the long run, and it could mess up your plans. So first of all, if you're one of the countries that just had this arrangement with Barbados, I'm talking about Barbados, Belize, Dominica, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines. They just entered into a full free movement arrangement. Then for these countries, for citizens of these countries, it's significantly easier. All you have to do is enter into Barbados and register, and you can start working. So this arrangement, if you go into the details of it, you see that it's very beneficial for the citizens of these four countries who want to travel out of the country or get better job opportunities. Maybe there is a sector in a neighboring country that you feel like you will benefit more from by working in that sector and you want to go there, then it's significantly easier. All you have to do is move to that country and register, and then you can start working. Very, very simple. However, if you're not one of these countries, you're not one of the countries that has this full free movement arrangement. Let's say you're coming from India or Nigeria or Ghana or Kenya or China or Mexico or wherever, all these other countries, and you want to come into Barbados and work, then this video is definitely for you. So the first thing you need to understand is that you have to be in Barbados legally. And I know that for many countries, there's a way to go, against this. There's a way to bypass this process. Now, I'm not advocating for trying to get into a country illegally or staying in a country illegally. But I know that in certain countries, it is significantly easier to stay under the radar illegally. But in Barbados, that is not the case, because practically everything you do in Barbados is going to be related to some legal document that you got by legally entering the country. So there are very few, if not zero, under the table deals and arrangements that you can do. So there are many people that have this mindset that, okay, as long as you find a way to get into Barbados, I don't know how you're going to do it, but people think that as long as you find a way to get into Barbados and you just stay here long enough, you can find your way around. It is significantly difficult to do that because you have to present a legal document at every step of the way. So, in order to save yourself all that trouble, I know some people are actually thinking about it, so I'm just mentioning it. In order to save yourself all that trouble, make sure you get into the country legally. Make sure you get into the country with a legal visa. Now, for some of you who are coming into the country as tourists or visitors or whatever, you may be able to stay in the country legally for a short period of time. So if you're coming from one of the African countries that has 180 days visa-free entry, for example, you can come to Barbados and stay visa-free. But that doesn't mean that you can work. In order to work in Barbados, you must have a work permit. You must have a work permit. Now, for citizens of Barbados, obviously you don't need all of that. You're a citizen, you can just apply for a job and get a job, right? This is specifically talking for people who are coming from outside. You need to apply for a work permit, and your work permit has to be approved. Okay? So, this is something else that you should know. There are generally two types of work permits. You can apply for a short-term work permit or a long-term work permit. A long-term work permit can last as long as 3 years or even up to 5 years. But there is an interesting thing. You are not the one that is going to do the application by yourself. Usually, it is the employer that is going to do the application on behalf of the foreign worker. So, for example, if you want to work at a hotel, the hotel is usually the one that is going to do the application for the person that is coming to work at the hotel. So you will talk with the hotel, you're going to make arrangements, and you're going to finalize whatever arrangements that you're making and your contracts and whatever. And when the hotel has decided, okay, they're going to hire you, then they will make the application for you, and then they will give you the work permit and everything, and then you can start working in Barbados, right? So the government, this is another thing, especially with new new regulations and rules and stuff in Barbados. There is this government is becoming a little tighter and applying more scrutiny when looking at jobs workers that are coming from outside Barbados, right? The government must often be satisfied that there is no suitably qualified Barbadian who is available to do the job before they can grant a long-term work permit for that job, right? So usually the government is going to grant a short-term work permit, and even that has its own scrutiny, and employers cannot just dish out work permits to people, right? Because they have to go through government scrutiny and all of that. So, but usually even after that, it's short-term work permits. So for a couple of months to, I think the maximum is about 11 months. And only when they are satisfied that this individual that is coming from outside is suitably qualified, and you cannot easily or readily find somebody like that in Barbados who is a Barbadian, before they will be able to grant a long-term work permit for that role. So very important, work permits are non-transferable. If the employee leaves the employer, sometimes the permit may even be cancelled, because now this employee will have to get a work permit from another employer. It is very important that even after you have gotten a work permit, if your work permit is cancelled, you have to make sure that you're still in a legal in the country the whole time you're in Barbados. I have to re-emphasize this multiple times, because I've heard of cases and I've read of cases in the news where people come in legally and then maybe their visa or whatever expires and they don't renew it, and then it becomes difficult for them to get a job. It becomes difficult even to get an ID. It becomes difficult because all of these things require documents to be presented to show that you are legally here. Some landlords even require this stuff before they can even rent you a house. So it becomes very, very difficult to live in Barbados if you don't renew your visa, you don't stay here legally, which is why I keep emphasizing this. So if you're moving to Barbados, you know exactly what you're getting into, right? Okay, so for CARICOM nationals, with CARICOM citizens with certain qualifications, and this is for people in the Caribbean. So even if you're not part of the 4 countries that had the agreement, if you're part of the Caribbean, if you have certain qualifications, you can apply for what is called the CARICOM Skilled National Certificate. It's something that you can get from your country, if your country is part of the Caribbean, part of CARICOM, and you can get that skill certificate based on your qualifications. And with that skill certificate, you can move into Barbados, apply for a job, and start working. So that is one advantage of being in the Caribbean. Okay, so after all of this, after we have assumed that you have your visa, you have your work permit, and you're ready to do work, what jobs should you be looking towards? There is one that Barbados really wants to hire people for, and that is in the medicine industry. Barbados has been getting a whole lot of nurses and I think doctors, but specifically nurses from abroad, especially from Ghana. Barbados wants so many people to work in the healthcare industry. If you've been listening to my videos, one of the problems that Barbados has is that the hospitals and the healthcare facilities in Barbados are overwhelmed with the number of patients that they're getting. right? Because of how good Barbados is treating everybody in Barbados and in neighboring islands, because people from neighboring islands fly to Barbados for good health care. People from all over the world fly to Barbados for good health care because Barbados is one of the best healthcare facilities in the Caribbean. So because of that, naturally, you need more people. If you're having a high demand, you need high supply. So they're looking for nurses. People who are qualified nurses are very likely to get employment in Barbados because Barbados is always going to have more demand for healthcare services than they are able to supply. So this is one place that you can actually see it's relatively easier to get employed. Another one, this is very, very high, probably the highest, is tourism and hospitality. I've also said this many times that one of, if not the absolute greatest economy in Barbados, the place that Barbados benefits the most is in tourism. Tourism contributes a huge percentage to Barbados' GDP. Tourism contributes a very huge percentage. Tourism and hospitality. So when you're looking at things like hotels or even tourism adjacent businesses and industries. So when you're talking about hotels or restaurants or guest houses, places like that, tour guides, all of this stuff, these people are, which other one? There's this one that I'm thinking about where you book tours and that's the tour buses. Yes, tour buses. These tour buses are going to take you around the islands and stuff like that. Businesses in the tourism and hospitality industry, because of the increasing number of people that are coming to Barbados to visit, to do their honeymoons, to do their weddings, just for vacation, to retire, and so on and so forth, is always going to keep increasing because Barbados is getting more and more popular. More people are learning about the country. More people are discovering that this is actually a good place in the Caribbean. It doesn't have the rampant drug problem that is usually associated with the Caribbean. It doesn't have the rampant violence that is associated with the Caribbean, right? Things are reasonably moderate when it comes to crime. So many people are very interested in this place, and the more they come, the more the tourism and hospitality industries are going to want to hire more people to serve the increase in incoming people, right? So tourism and hospitality is one very good place. And there is a forecast that the new jobs are expected to grow to as much as 6,000 new hires by 2027, right? So that is a lot of people being employed. Another one, so like I said, we are talking about hotel management, operations, guest services, culinary, events, restaurants, and so on and so forth, right? Another one is technology and fintech. Now, many people don't know this, but Barbados is positioning itself as a hub for technological innovation. So there's an increased demand for software developers, data analysts, cybersecurity experts, especially one of the fields that I don't hear a lot of people talking about when they talk about Barbados, but this is something that is well known in the experts community, is Barbados is a very good place for crypto trading, right? Cryptocurrencies and stuff like that. So all of this thing is going to require people who are good with technology and fintech. If that is your area, if that is your niche, or if that is a place you're looking to enter into, then you can confidently go into it because Barbados is looking for these kinds of people who are good at this stuff. Another one is engineering and and infrastructure. So in the past, a couple of years ago, many people used to come into Barbados to get construction jobs, and this was very, very simple. You just come into Barbados and you get, they're always building something, right? Which is one of the advantages of a country that is rapidly developing, is that you're going to see a lot of buildings going up very quickly. If you have a lot of buildings going up, you need a lot of workers, right? So people would come in and they would find one of these hotels or whatever that is building a new facility or something, and they would apply and they would get employed. And even though they are getting in at a minimum wage or whatever, the point is that they have their work permit, and now they can use that to be in Barbados legally and to be working while they are looking for a more permanent or a better job opportunity. But as the country has started tightening its requirements, has started doing more scrutiny, this approach is no more the easiest to implement. However, you still have more buildings going up. So even though it's not easy, you still have more buildings going up, and there is an increased demand now, not just for everyday construction workers, but for people who have expertise in civil, mechanical, and electrical engineering, because these ones are rarer to find, right? It's harder to find multiple people in Barbados who have these specialties. So if you have this, you're in high demand. If you're an expert, maybe you have qualifications or degrees or whatever in civil, mechanical, and electrical engineering, then because you don't have such a high supply of people with this expertise in Barbados, you have an increased chance of getting hired and getting your work permit and working in Barbados. So that is one of the, as a rule of thumb, I don't know if you're getting a pattern with what I'm talking about, but as a rule of thumb, all you have to think about is what roles or what qualifications are not going to be as common for people in general to start with, and then Barbadians specifically. If you're looking at roles that are not as common and you're trying to get yourself qualifications that are not as common in Barbados, you stand a better chance of getting the kinds of jobs and the kinds of salary that you're looking for. And this applies to even Barbadians as well. So instead of just looking for, I want to get hired or I want a job, try to think about something that will require a lot of skill and a lot of expertise and a lot of qualifications, and start working from now to get those things in place. And once you have that, whether you need to get an extra certification or to get a degree or to, I don't know, to get some experience, on the job experience, maybe you can apply to be an intern so that you don't, it's significantly easier to be an intern than to be a worker that is getting paid a certain salary. But an intern is significantly easier. But even though you're an intern, you get that opportunity to get experience and to get stuff on your resume. You are going to, in the future, position yourself to be more employable than the person who is just looking for a job or the person who is just looking to get employed, right? So that is the general mindset that you should have going into this. Another one, and this is more future stuff, but if you're much younger right now, maybe you're in your early 20s and you're thinking about working in the Caribbean in the future, or you want to start working on that right now, one thing that you can start looking into is the life sciences. So Barbados has something called the Blue Book, which is its economic development plan, and it is planning to prioritize life sciences. Life sciences, according to the Blue Book, is a priority sector. So we are looking at opportunities in research, pharmaceuticals, and biotechnology. Obviously, these are things that you're not going to just walk up to the everyday Bayesian and say, oh, are you an expert in this? And he will say yes, right? Most human beings on earth are not expert biotechnicians or expert in the pharmaceutical industry or research, right? So this is because Barbados is trying to get into and make itself a formidable force in these sectors, in these industries. It is going to try to look for people who can work in these industries. And if you're one of those people, then getting employed is significantly easier, right? Because like I always say, if it's something that you cannot readily get in Barbados, it is significantly easier for you to get employed. Another one is global finance sector. I've already talked about how Barbados is a very great place for crypto. Barbados also does it's also great for foreign direct investment, and there are a lot of investors that invest millions of dollars in Barbados. So Barbados is also going to be focusing on the global finance services. There's an increased demand in finance, corporate services, audit, and compliance, right? So Barbados International Business Sector, IBC, is relevant here. Okay, so if you're good at, I think more practically what I should be talking about are people who are good with financial services, accounting, banking, all of this stuff, even cybersecurity, because that is very important in finances, even cybersecurity, things like that. These are the things that are these are the people that are going to be able to work in this global financial services part that Barbados is trying to become, Barbados is trying to expand, okay? And also, another one is renewable energy and green economy. As Barbados invests in sustainability, there's room for roles in renewable energy, green construction, environmental consulting. This is something that is not just unique to Barbados. This is something that is the entire world is looking into, because eventually when you build, you have to start thinking about sustainability, right? At some point, you have to start thinking about sustainability. And it's good that Barbados is focusing on this thing right now before it becomes a problem in the future. Because if you just build mindlessly and you don't have sustainability in mind, then maintenance is going to be significantly high, right? It will cost you significantly more to maintain, and then you also have to deal with adverse effects if you build things that are harmful or detrimental to the environment. You still have to fix that, especially on a small island like Barbados, right? Compared to some of the other heavy hitters in the world, Barbados is relatively small, so it cannot afford to make decisions that destroy its environment, that destroy its waters, its land, its ecosystem, and stuff like that. So if you're an expert in renewable energy, green economy, and all those stuff, and this is also going to tie in with what I talked about with engineering and infrastructure, so civil engineering, mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, with some of those sustainability things at play, then this is an area that you can actually look into. There are some parts of working in Barbados that is not usually discussed, and that's something that I want to add to this video before we wrap up. And that is, many people are looking at working in Barbados as just coming to the country and getting employed, but there is this approach that I've seen some people taking, where they don't move into the country at the beginning of their plan to work in Barbados. They start applying and trying to see how they can get positions in Barbados with remote work, right? So they start working for companies in Barbados remotely, and then that graduates to the point where those companies are comfortable with how good their work is. Those companies are able to then apply for the necessary papers and the documents and whatever and get them in. So many times when you're applying for jobs, if you're struggling to get things physically, like if you're struggling to find a company that is going to hire you physically, try to look for companies that are hiring remote. And you can find a lot of these companies on LinkedIn, right? If you just change the location to Barbados and look for these companies, you can find a lot of them and you can see what they're looking for. Even if you're in Barbados, you can look for remote countries and you can work from home for a Barbados company while you're here in Barbados. It doesn't matter. And when you start working for these companies, many times the things that you're doing, depending on how good at that thing you are, you will be able to impress them significantly, and then you can move on to a higher role or a better paying position, or you can even get the opportunity to move to Barbados if that is your ultimate goal, right? So you can also approach it from that mindset. There are some people, however, that just want to be able to stay in Barbados long term. So what I would recommend is that you look at visa opportunities like the Nomad visa. That's the Barbados Welcome Stamp, right? The Barbados Welcome Stamp is Barbados Digital Nomad visa, where if you're making a certain amount of money a year, you can apply for the Welcome Stamp and they will approve your application if you meet the qualifications, and then you're going to be able to come and live in Barbados for 1 whole year, right? And then at the end of the year you can renew your Welcome Stamp visa. And so some people are able to come into the country with different kinds of visas. So whether it is that you're coming with Welcome Stamp, or you're coming as a, maybe your country has a 3-month visa-free entry or whatever. And during that period, you're able to talk with different companies and people in different industries and understand how the job market is going. And this gives you a certain understanding of what your next steps are going to be. So instead of just running blind and you don't know exactly what your next step is, you don't know what to do next, you should approach it from different angles. You should approach it from LinkedIn, approach it from, okay, how can I maybe get into the country legally, and then talk with some people and then see what next steps I need to take. You can approach it from different angles, but ultimately the summary of the matter is be in the country legally, get your work permit, and usually it is an industry that is going to apply, and then you can start working. Focus on industries that is going to make it significantly easier for your employer to prove to the government and to go through the entire scrutiny and process of the government and employ you. If you focus on industries that Bajans are doing every single day, like it's significantly easier to get a Bajan to do something in this industry. Maybe you're thinking that you can just come to Barbados and be a secretary, right? The company that is going to hire you, your employer, is going to find it very difficult to prove to the government that a secretary cannot be hired. Like they can't find a secretary in Barbados. They have to bring a secretary all the way from South Africa or all the way from Kenya. That is going to be a very difficult thing for the employer to prove. That if you come in and you're focusing on industries that Barbados is expanding into, or industries that Barbados is already inside but wants to develop and grow, and you're an expert in that, Barbados is more than happy to have you here. Barbados is more than happy to grant you that work permit, because everything that you're going to do is going to help build the country at the end of the day, right? So you have very little resistance. Okay, if you have any questions, make sure you leave them in the comment section. If you're looking to move to Barbados anytime soon, you can go to barbadoswalker.com and get the Barbados relocation program, or just click the link in the description. It's going to take you there. Same thing. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.